must have been so cool for you to do Cake and to be that uninhibited and that raw and broken. And I mean, it was devastating for me to watch, and I think because I know you and love you, but also it was so strange and eerie to see you play somebody so angry.
So angry.
Because you're so the opposite. And to see you play that, I forgot it was you, and it was very upsetting to see somebody who is unable to move on. And it is, as I said to you, it's every parent's deepest fear to be left behind, for your child to pass and for you to be left behind and have to deal. And it was just agony for me to watch it, not only to see you like that, but to experience what that must be like as a mother, you know. And
I can't even, I can't imagine. And it was incredible to be able to go into that world and take on that challenge, because it was, you know, those scripts don't necessarily come along very often, and it wasn't mine, and I had to fight for it. And if the opportunity came, I knew I was going to be ready to sort of say, I'm going to throw a hat in that ring. I've never, you know, and it was out to somebody else, and I just knew that if that situation didn't happen, I just kept sort of being that squeaky wheel, which I knew I had to do if I was going to be able to have the experience. And luckily, Daniel was quite excited about the odd choice of that.
So I bet.
And
I think you do have to fight for the good roles.
You have
to.
I
think everybody, the good ones, everyone wants.
And at first it's hard, because I don't think I would have been, maybe 10 years ago, I don't think I would have had that fight in me or had that ability. I don't think I would have been up for the challenge of the part necessarily.
How cool that you feel that now.
Yeah, but that's also life, I think.
Yeah.
But as far as the typecasting thing, I think it also has to do with, yes, we are typecast, but it also takes that director that will have the imagination and think, ooh, that's exciting. Let's put that is an unexpected choice.
Yeah.
And then allow the sort of actor to show what they have.
And it's rare. I think that those directors are sort of rare.
Yeah, they are rare.
I think
they're usually up and coming.
Yeah, they are, and it's usually a smaller film. You know, where you get to. I think the independent films for women are more exciting. The parts are better and braver, and you get to be more courageous. You know, but I know, for example, Rob Marshall for Into the Woods, he had to literally kick me into the audition room because I
can't even understand this story.
Do it. I didn't want to do it.
I
was so frightened to sing in front of anybody, and he called a few times to my agent, and Chris Andrews is the best agent ever, but he'd asked
Didn't
me
he
to
also
go
try to make you go into 100 different other musicals?
But he said, you got to go up for Les Mis, you got to go up for Nine, you got to go up for Mamma Mia, like every musical that's happened. And every time I went, no, I can't, it's embarrassing, I can't, I literally feel sick at the thought, please don't make me do it, I'm not going to do it. And for Into the Woods, Rob and I knew each other. So we'd met, and he just called Chris, and he was like, I'm not looking for a singer who can kind of act. I want the opposite of that. I want an actor
who can sing.
Kind of sing. But I know for Into the Woods, for that audition, I just came in and I just said,
which song did you have to sing?
That big solo, Moments in the Woods, after I have a fling with the prince.
That's the scene that took me to my knees.
Oh, you're so nice.
Took me to my knees.
But it's this kind of funny monologue in a way, because it's sort of, she's had a pretty awesome time having a fling with the prince. It's like
how you transitioned between agony, guilt, and euphoria of what just happened, and saying, it's such a feat what you did in this film. I keep saying it. I don't know how you were able to sing, to act, to be interesting, to be real.
That's the nicest. We had a lot of rehearsals, which was huge. We rehearsed for like 5 weeks, and that's really unusual.
5 weeks.
With films, you never get that. You never get rehearsals, and Rob Marshall is like, we need 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And people showed up. They were there and loved it. And we were all sitting around in the huge space that they'd rented at Shepperton Studios, and we'd sit there with legs crossed like a band of players watching each other do the songs, and you know.
So you'd sing in front of each other?
Yeah, which was the first day, was hideous, because we'd all trained for a couple of months before we showed up for rehearsals privately, you know, with a singing teacher or something. And
you can belt away.
Oh yeah, and there was that hideous moment after we did the whole meet and greet and hi, how are you, blah, 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 isn't this great? And Rob Marshall got on the microphone and he went, okay, so we're going to sing. And everyone went, no! People were like screaming. And he goes, okay, Meryl, we're going to start with you. And she was mortified.
She's singing it. I mean, yes,
Mamma
Mamma
Mia,
Mia,
but I think
but
singing
that
is
voice
so
went into
intimate.
ranges like
Oh, she's got a voice like
what
a trumpet. It's
is
crazy.
happening?
Yeah, no, she's incredible. She's kind of good at everything.
She's just good at everything. The other extraordinary thing about watching your performance, which was about 150,000 things, the fact that you're playing this woman who's barren,
Yeah.
and the fact that there was a little Hazel being cooked inside at the same time, which
was
is
really strange.
and that whole storyline of wanting to be a mother, and the fact that then you have this voice that comes out of your mouth, which I'd never heard, Justin had never heard. We both just. You brought, it literally was like someone pushed a button and this tears started falling out of my face. And there's so many beautiful scenes in this movie. And when that, well, it's a very dark, it's dark.
It's dark, it is.
It's a real,
sort of what happens after Happily Ever After,
Yeah.
which is
real life.
Which is real life. You know, you get your dream and then maybe you deal with the ramifications and the repercussions of maybe these characters have done morally questionable things in order to get what they want.
Yeah.
And then they have to deal with that. And it's maybe not what they wanted. They find out that it might not have actually been what they wanted or needed or yearned for. I think the
careful what you
woods are
wish
like,
for.
yeah, and I think the woods are almost like the trials of life.
Yeah.
You know, we yearn for these things, we want them, we think we want them, and then there's downfalls and we have to forgive, we have to move on, we have to survive. It's like,
yeah.
it kind of reminds me, actually, I think that Cake and Into the Woods do correlate in that way of the need to forgive and to move on.
forward,
And it's
move
so
through.
hard sometimes and how impossible that can be.
And
who
forgiveness.
you blame and forgiveness, it's so impossible.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
it's
that's
so
the
hard.
part of playing this character that is quite unlikable, you know, and also
She's horrible to people.
she's horrible, and she's pretty much alienated herself from the world except for this beautiful angelic, you know, housekeeper.
I know.
And it's interesting to sort of play that character and then allow the audience then sort of discovers why they're so mean and horrible and angry and rageful, and then there's sort of a forgiveness that kind of comes through that, and it's
or at
interesting.
least an understanding and some sense of empathy for what this woman's lost. I mean, I think there isn't one person on the planet who couldn't understand what she must be going through.
Or just sort of, loss is a universal experience, and we've all been brought to our knees for one thing or another. And I think what I also connected to her was her sense of humor. She had this sort of acerbic wit about her that got her into trouble sometimes, but it was also sort of just a saving grace that would get her through
it was
a
like
day.
a default setting.
Yeah.
I find, like, when John and I read scenes together, if we're both auditioning for something, I know he prefers it if I just read it kind of like blah, blah, blah,
As
blah,
opposed
blah.
to doing this.
Yeah. And I
It's
think,
where you're actually watching him on
when you're trying to like imagine what it's going to be like, and he's like, don't do that, you know. So I sort of try and do it like offhand. I think it's so intimate when you do that with your partner and with like, it's just, it's harder, you know, in some ways. And so I think I tend to just sort of learn lines. We sort of learn lines with each other, but we don't do it.
Understood, I agree.
What do you guys do?
Do
Do
the
you do-
exact same thing.
Yeah.
Exact same thing, because then it is that sort of work. I'm just trying to read it, but I'm also really trying to see if
See what you're doing.
Maybe
You're
we
like-
should try it. Or
you
he
don't wanna
would
give
be
a
like,
note.
you know how it'd be great if you did it like this, and I'd be like, that's a great note. And then you feel defensive. I wasn't doing it. I was just reading it. I wasn't actually doing it.
And so we always preface it by saying, look, I'm not gonna like do it. I'm just gonna like learn it. So I'm just gonna mark it.
Yeah.
You know, we always say that.